I'm a writer whose side job just happens to be director of production at a massive video game company. I still look at it that way. Like,
hi.
hello.
Welcome to this special edition of the Remotely Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Scotty Carlson. I'm with Sean Smillie, who's head of production, Kabam Games.
Director of production.
But also lives in Roslyn. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to do what I'm calling the Remote Creative Survival Guide, or How to Survive as a Remote Creative. Sean's here for a variety of reasons. He is a remote creative, but he also is the most adventurous human I know. Goes on more adventures than anybody I know, and often solo, and has to learn how to survive and come home. So I often do a Monday morning survival check-in with Sean to make sure he made it through the weekend. But what I wanted to do was, I've been doing this for 22 or 23 or some odd years of freelancing and running a creative studio, all different iterations of that. And you've been working as a remote creative for a long time.
Yeah.
Kind of in a different context, because you work for a company but do it remotely.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is go through my experiences and try and help anybody that might be starting or might be doing this already and trying to figure out what my experiences and your experiences could do to maybe help them along their journey.
Gotcha.
So with all of that out of the way, I'm going to start with my first tip, experience learned, which is to keep overhead low. I've tried everything. I've had a big studio with pool tables and all sorts of fun stuff in it, and employees, and it was all good and fun, but I was incredibly stressed out. And I also found myself doing a lot more managing and just keeping the business running than I did actually enjoying myself as a creative human. So my advice is to keep things low, whether that's working from your own space, keeping your space relatively low cost. Part of being rural, which is nice, is you can keep your costs low. And if you don't mind where you are, even seeking out places with lower cost living, because it can be a great advantage and give you more runway to be creative.
Right.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. It's just because you're working remotely, especially like us in a small mountain town, doesn't mean you can go get the big studio, big office. It's like, no. Just because you're in a small town doesn't mean you can go big. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. The one thing I found was that when I did have the big office, which was rad when everything was going rad, but became really stressful when things got slow, and all of a sudden I didn't have downtime. I couldn't enjoy the slow time because I had to keep things churning. So yeah. The second point I have here, which is diversify what you do. So I'd say definitely have your focus, but also be willing to try other stuff. For some people, that might be a completely different job, where they're doing something during the day or the night to earn a living, and then doing their creative stuff in the other time. So I've silk screened, I've built websites, I've done branding, I've designed stores, I've done animation, I've done motion graphics, I've made commercials. I've tried a ton of stuff. And the one thing, lots of that stuff was just to keep things moving and keep money coming in the door. But during that process, I found a lot of other stuff I really like doing that I didn't know.
Right.
And some of it's just a part of the process. Some of it's things like writing. I didn't really know I would like writing as much as I did.
Right.
So that's definitely something I think can be really advantageous. If you're a photographer, it's good to maybe take that skill and learn how to design. And it's very applicable.
Right.
Yeah. When I met Derek Frankowski, who's an amazing photographer and cinematographer, I also found out he was a really good designer. And he just had to figure it out on his own, but he was able to use those design skills to kind of not only make his photographs and website look better, but also offer that as a service to clients that he had, which was super cool. So magazines, people that were looking for ads that might be featuring his photos, he could then offer the design services as well.
And I'd add in there, like my capacity as director of production, I'm hiring people. And I never really hire anyone with one skill set. Like I want them to be awesome at one thing, but great at a whole bunch of other things. That's just an added bonus. If they're a concept artist who can write dialogue, that's 2 in 1. You know, if they're an art director who can also actually concept art sketch or do storyboards, even better for previs. Like always looking for people that have a range of talents, not just one thing.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, being easy to work with, making it like really easy for people to work with you, I think goes a long way, especially when you're remote. Mm-hmm. It's already might be challenging for someone to make the decision to hire you based on your geography.
Yeah. So
removing any other factor, be really nice, outgoing, be excited about the project, all those things make a big difference. Number 3, I'm saying plan for a rainy day, which I've converted into plan for a snow day.
Yeah.
Because rainy day planning in freelance world is important. You know, having some savings, being able to look at your year, look at the previous year and try and make forecasts, but also know that there is a peak and valley to the business. And when it is in the valley, instead of freaking out because you need to make money and treating it as a rainy day, no, being able to enjoy it and go, I know it's all good. I have a bit of savings. I'm not going to lose the house. So I think that's a really important.
I'm going to add to that 2 things. One, save for a snowy day. 2, because it allows you a little freedom to work on your own stuff too, I've found. So if work starts to dry up, when I was a contractor, it was an opportunity to like, okay, don't panic. Maybe spend that time working on your own stuff. And I'd add in there, save for an apocalyptic day. COVID, strange things that happen. COVID, I was contracting at the time, threw me out of whack for months, threw my industry out of whack. And, you know, luckily I had the savings in a small town. I kept my costs low. You know, I was able to kind of weather it out for a while there before things start to turn around.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm still recovering from lots of stuff that happened during that period.
Yeah.
And the other suggestion I would make that I didn't do in the beginning was figure out your taxes and how to manage that well, especially in freelance or running your own business, because I put my head down. It's so easy for me to forget about that stuff until it comes to bite me in the butt. And I've had that happen many times, and it's something I try and get better at every year. But being good with your bookkeeping, dealing with your finances will make your ability to focus on your creativity easier.
Yeah.
So short-term pain, dealing with it, making sure you're handled for your long-term happiness 100%. And creativity. The 4th one I have is get out. Get out to do jobs in other places, get out to vacation in other places, get out to conferences in other places. For me personally, I can hermit really easy. I have lots of stuff that I like here. I can ski, I can mountain bike, I can snowboard, I can go for hikes, and all the stuff exists here.
Yeah.
I get quite a bit of work here. And so it's easy for me to just put my head down and live here and even start avoiding projects that take me away.
Yeah.
But every time I say yes to one of those projects or a vacation or a conference or going out, I'm always super happy I did. And it's like, why don't I remember that I love doing this? And it might be challenging for some people financially or geographically to do that. But if you do have the opportunity, every time I do get out, I really am thankful.
It's true, because I actually travel to my studio every 5 or 6 weeks. But sometimes it's the working remotely. Travel can be challenging. Season comes. I recently dealt with 3 canceled flights over 3 days, stuck in the city. It's challenging, but I get the same way. I kind of hermit it, and I need to get out. I actually haven't left town in 7 weeks. Like I haven't left this town in 7 weeks, not even to go down the hill to the gas station, because the skiing has been so good and I've been really busy working. I'm leaving town tomorrow.
Right. Luckily we live in a town that does offer kind of everything you need. We have 3,500 people, 3,500 kind of ish people here, depending on the season and the influx of tourists. But we have a great grocery store. We do have kind of all the stuff you need.
Amazing ski hill, fast mountain bike trails in the wintertime. We got everything you want. Yeah.
So yeah, getting out, especially if we, this is probably aimed more at people that live rurally, but it's even if you're living in a city, getting out to somewhere rural can really change your perspective and just open up sometimes just your lens on opportunity even.
Yeah.
If I'm living here and staying here for too long, that lens of opportunity can really shrink. And so getting out kind of reminds me like, oh yeah, there's tons of opportunities out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs what I do.
Yeah.
Next one I have is when you're in a small place, sometimes, like I just said, it can feel like there isn't tons of opportunity because you're not seeing it every day. So one thing I've been able to do is turn my fun into finance, I'm calling it, or passion into profit, which is there's things I really like doing, like skiing and mountain biking and snowboarding and being in the outdoors. And I've been able to take those passions and things I love and figure out how to build my work around that or build those into my work. Right. So I get to make videos and creative stuff for mountain biking and skiing a lot. And it's been part of my, work and creativity for a long time. So for other people, that might be knitting and photography or pottery and design, but finding ways to let those two things meet each other and maybe figure out how they could work together.
My first video games were snowboard video games. I was living in Whistler as a snowboard bum and got into video games because of my knowledge of snowboarding and made 4 huge AAA titled snowboard games. And yeah, that was actually probably the most satisfying stretch of my career, was doing something I love, snowboarding in games, which I loved. And then the research was like, well, this is watching snowboard films all day. I love it. Yeah, it is
super cool. I think there's lots of people that don't even realize that there's probably something they love doing that someone else out there requires knowledge about within the skill set you have creatively. So if you're a photographer or a designer, or you build websites, there might be a cat skiing operation or heli skiing operation, or someone that needs what you do. And it's always surprises me that more people don't take advantage of that. And I'll ramp that into one other thing, which is we live in a place that's really well known for skiing and mountain biking. So even though I'm in this tiny town in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia, I have this wicked thing that this, what did I write down? This thing our town is known for. I'm able to leverage that into my own credibility within that. So even though I'm here and people might not know where this is exactly, but they make skis or they make mountain bikes. Yeah. They are like, oh, yeah, that's well known for mountain biking. Yeah. He works there. He must know about mountain biking. He must like it. So if you live somewhere that has something it's well known for, maybe it's fishing, maybe it's agriculture, maybe there's a world-class metal fabricator there or bakery. They might not know that in the same town is a world-class designer, photographer. So making sure that you can leverage what your town is known for and become an expert in the world of it within your skill set.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think that is something that we don't think about a lot when we live in these small areas.
That's good.
So the next thing I have is to think globally, locally. Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea I have there is, again, living in a small area, oftentimes we think we need to get out. We need to think global.
Right.
I need brands from Europe to want what I do.
Right.
Which is great. But I also think there might be someone local that you can do something that is impressive enough globally, but you can do it locally.
Right. Okay.
Some of my favorite projects are for clients that exist within this town that I'm trying to create something that can make a huge impression globally, but I'm doing it for the local market. And so sometimes you might have big ideas, but they can be for your small town. Mm-hmm. And so I think, again, introducing yourself to those places, making sure you let them know what you do, that you're good at it.
Yeah.
Maybe the bakery doesn't know that you're a designer and that you're great at it.
Or even if the bakery doesn't know you're a designer, maybe they do know you're a designer, but they're almost intimidated to ask you because you work with global brands. So a local company's not willing to actually reach out to you because that's intimidating. So you got to put yourself out there to be accessible, because working with our local bakery would be awesome. And you could make that into literally equal global brand as anything else.
The next thing I mentioned, but tell people what you do, and let them know you're good at it. I think, in our small town, we don't talk a ton about what we do because everybody's here to ski and mountain bike, and it kind of is, I don't want to say meaningless, but it's not why people live here to do that job. They lived here to do these other things. So we don't talk tons about what we do for a living.
Right.
But I do think it's important to let people know what you do, especially when you're passionate about it, and let them know that you take it seriously, that you want to do it for them potentially, and just be your own cheerleader. When we started, our sign hanging on Main Street said world famous Juicy Studios.
Right.
First year in business, day one, it said world famous.
Right.
And I just knew the marketing and the ability to kind of beat your chest a bit, or pound your chest and let people know you're here and you want to do it and you're taking it seriously. So
it's good too, because then you can also, there are other remote creatives who may be working in your town. I'm still looking for video game people in the Kootenay region. And
there is one I got to talk to you about.
Okay, because I can't find anyone. And when I tell people what I do, I'm always surprised how surprised they are. They're like, I had no idea. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I got to speak up a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, especially what you do, I think you should spend more time. Also, I know you don't have tons of extra time, but going to schools, letting people know that these opportunities exist, because lots of times in these areas, what we see is just what's around us. And those are the kind of the jobs we know we might be able to do. But I bet you there's kids in school that knew if they could make video games while living in a place like this, they'd be pretty pumped up. But I won't tell you how to do that. So the kind of last main point I have is, if you need to, get a job. It's not giving up. It might just be giving yourself more runway to do what you love doing. And it actually might give you more energy and time to pursue it. Because if you're trying to make it as a photographer and you're just chasing leads and your finances are running low and you're just trying to convince people all the time to pay you to be a photographer, then your tank can get pretty empty. The sales can lose their wind, and you might just not want to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes getting a job, part-time, full-time, daytime, nighttime, that is different than what you do, that just gives you a foundation of financial kind of security to build on. When you're home or wherever you are, in a coffee shop, doesn't matter, and you want to write, because writing a novel is actually what you really are trying to do, or you can go take photos and the passion relights because you're not trying to chase down someone to do it for them, but you're just doing the photos you love, then I think it can actually create more opportunity for you than just trying to constantly convince people to hire you.
Yeah, it gives perspective. It reinforces the ambition you have of, I want to do this full time, so I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I do hire a lot of contractors, and I find, funny enough, this just happened the other day. I was talking to a contractor and they said, oh, I'm working ski patrol on the side because not quite hitting my financial target. I actually really respect that, because that shows to me, as someone who hires contractors, oh, this is a hardworking person. They're doing what it takes. If they're doing that in their life, they're going to do that on my project. So I really respect that. Coming from a contractor background too, I'm like, oh, I get it, immediately. And I don't think people should be ashamed of that at all.
Yeah. And I think there is kind of this, I've dealt with it, this ego that forms I am what I do.
Yep.
And people know me for that, even though most people probably have no idea
Right.
and don't care.
Right.
But if I fail, then I'm a failure.
Right.
And I just think that is so far from the truth. It's, who knows what the industry, what's going on in the world, lots of what I do and jobs I get is luck. you know, and I've been doing it long enough that there's a bit of history that I can kind of rely on to go, okay, I think I can get another job in this area. But yeah, I think.
And you can do it at any level. I'm a writer whose side job just happens to be director of production at a massive video game company. I still look at it that way. Like, my focus and passion has always been writing my own projects on the side. And no matter where I am in my career, I always look at that too as like, oh yeah, this is my day job. I'm still pursuing this as a passion on the side.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good point. I think that, you know, we choose what defines us.
Yeah.
And I know some people recently who had a creative career who, for whatever reasons, have decided to take full-time jobs doing something else. And at first, I think there's that bit of like, I don't want to speak for them, but ego or pride or whatever it might be, that's just like, I'm giving up. But both of those people, I think, you know, I know one for sure is finding like happiness in like the full-time job, working with a team of people,
right,
being able to like do it and leave it. And I see them still being extremely creative outside those hours. So,
and you know, I'll even give an example. I was working contracts, wasn't getting enough. I took a job as a project manager at Arc'teryx. I learned more about the creative process at Arc'teryx so unexpectedly, and I should have seen it coming, dealing with clothing designers, gear designers. People were managing like how a product, is revealed and launches. I learned so much in my years working at Arc'teryx. I've taken that now into production stuff and writing and creative direction and all that. And that was a really unexpected bonus. But when I left the game industry as a contractor to go work at Arc'teryx, like people were giving me flack for that. And I was doing it because I love their gear. But you know, I wanted to buy cheap, you know, get access to gear. But it taught me so much, and that was pretty cool to be able to like kind of step out of your world into something else. I found it super rewarding.
Yeah, totally. And I think that you can learn stuff about yourself that you didn't even know you could do. Like you've always been extremely creative, but to do something where you were more on the production management side of things, to be like, oh, well, I'm actually pretty good at managing schedules and you know, data.
Not Excel sheets, but schedules. Yeah.
The one extra thing I had on here was that when you have time to rest, that you rest. I think there's like, I call it the LBD. You either learn, build, or rest. And rest might be restoration. It might be skiing. It might be mountain biking.
Yeah.
It might be just reading and curling up next to a fire on a beach. But just when you have time, just knowing that you don't need to hustle all the time.
Yeah.
It's important to like maintain and try and make sure you have work coming in. But also when you work for yourself or in a creative field, oftentimes the brain doesn't turn off. And it's a 24-hour-a-day thing that we're always thinking about the creative things. So finding time, whether that might be learning, which is super fun. I love learning. Building something for yourself. So doing a spec project or trying to take what you've learned and do something else with it.
Yeah.
Or just resting and really being okay with the fact that everybody deserves rest.
And that's actually one thing I love about out here in this summertime. My favorite thing to do is to go on these like 12-hour canoe rides while listening to a book in a genre that I want to write in. So I'm chilling with my dog on the water. It's healthy. I'm outside. It's away from everything. But I'm listening to an audiobook about a fantasy genre I didn't even know exists, and I'm intrigued. And that to me is the ultimate. I'm still resting and relaxing and learning at the same time, but kind of away from everything. And yeah, I probably do it a little too much at times, trying to find that balance. But yeah, no. And I don't see a lot of other people embracing that. Fellow creatives and other people I know, it's like you got to encourage them, like you got to get out. Yeah.
Well, I think it's challenging. I think we live in a culture right now that is very much built on like hustling and trying to get ahead, and like, you know, someone somewhere is doing it. So if you're not doing it, then you're falling behind. And I think that I've mentioned it recently, but that on vacations, I used to always feel like, okay, well, I'm on vacation. I'm going to write this thing, or I'm going to work on this, you know, illustration or whatever it might be. I'm going to create a short film. And sometimes I've done that. Sometimes I've written a short film on vacation. It felt rad. But then other times I've gone and it I haven't done any of it, and then I feel guilty, and it's like, what was the purpose of that?
Yeah, well, and I try and listen to my body and my brain. I took a month off this year in December. Grand ambitions to write a bunch of stuff. Nope, I snowboarded for a month.
Yeah,
because that's what I needed. I didn't think about work. I didn't think about creativity. I just recharged and just kind of rolled with it, because I've done the same every time. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. This time, all I did was snowboard. And it was good. It was necessary. Yeah,
I think, well, there's two things I think about doing your own projects is that we often underestimate how long they will take. So we're going to go, on vacation for a week or 2 weeks, filled with, maybe that's traveling or you have family or whatever it might be, actually enjoying the adventure. And then it's like, oh, within that time, I'm also going to do something that probably is actually a month worth of work.
Right.
And so I think that also I have personal projects I'm working on, and setting yourself arbitrary deadlines, being flexible when you don't hit them, resetting them. And as long as you're kind of moving, things forward on those things, and it feels good, you're not just doing it because you felt this need, like, oh, I got to, then it's great. And I think that eventually maybe you'll finish it, maybe you won't. But if it's enjoyable, then it kind of is inconsequential whether you finish or not.
And I know we both do the mental writing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm driving somewhere, I'll think about a project I'm working on. And if I go on vacation, I know I'm going to think about it inevitably. So I don't fight it a lot of time. I will map out scenes, play with characters in my head. I may not be writing it in a notebook, but I'll use that time to think it through. Like, you're always working on it in some way or another. Yeah.
And on that side, I'd say it's not on my list, my official list, but being weird, leaning into your weirdness, within your medium, within your ideas. I think that anytime I have something weird that at least I think it's weird, and I pursue it, oftentimes that turns into one of the bigger things I do. And oftentimes I'll say it, if it ends up being a client project, it's almost like off the cuff, like, oh, this is a weird thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And that often lands with people because all of a sudden it like triggers something in them that's like, oh, that's different. And I think in this world of kind of everything being the same, we're chasing trends, we're chasing, we want our thing to be like this thing. There's all this reference. Anytime you can give people just something a little different.
Yeah.
And in pursuing your own stuff, what a wicked opportunity to do something really different. And yeah.
I never throw out ideas anymore. I just shelve them and go back and regularly read them. Some are insane, some are bizarre. I'm wondering where I was in my life at that point. But then years later, an opportunity will come up and I'm like, oh, that would fit this perfectly. Yeah, so I've really learned now, never throw away, just kind of shelve, and never discount anything no matter how ridiculous it is, because one day it might, get a life again.
Yeah, I agree. I have so many projects that, I thought about a decade ago, and for whatever reason, they just never came to fruition.
Right.
And then I'll have a project I'm working on, and there'll be something about it that just triggers that idea.
Yeah.
And, I'll introduce that to, either the project or who I'm working with. And it's amazing how many times those end up kind of finding life.
Yeah.
Up to a decade after the idea was conceived.
Yeah.
Because, cool ideas like that don't have a shelf life. That's kind of the neat thing. You can put them on a shelf and they can stay there, forever.
Yeah.
Like a good preserved fruit or vegetable, just waiting to be opened again and enjoyed. And those ideas, once they come back to life, it's amazing. It brings me back to kind of where I was when I thought about it.
Yeah.
And how much like fun it is to pursue, because it's like, oh, this is a decade in the making.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have any other tips, experiences.
Maybe just one I would put out there: working remotely. It really does come down to communication. You got to be the loudest person at the company you're working with if you're remote, because you're not walking the halls and the water cooler or the coffee machine. So you got to be all about. I've had to reevaluate my methods of communication and be much more active, not passive in any way. And that's a big thing I've learned over the last year, and it's working really well. But Yeah, that's not something I thought about before. Now I make a conscious effort, and I've kind of expressed that to a few other remote people I know. Like, yeah, you got to just be that little extra communicative, a little louder, a little more at the start of meetings, like reminding everyone, just because you're not there physically, you're still there. So, yeah.
I think that's a really good point. It's something that I need to get better at, is just the communication in general.
Yeah.
And I think that letting people know, just heads up, here's what's happening, when I am available or might not be available. And I think even letting people know you're not available because you're riding your bike or you're doing a big, all day bike ride, not rubbing it in their faces, but kind of giving them a window into your life makes you more real to them.
Yep.
And they can connect with that. And I think those parts alone, just being really easy to communicate with, so that it doesn't feel like that's a barrier to working with you.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then, other than that, I think sticking with it, not giving up, and knowing that eventually, the stars can align.
Yep.
And I'd say, like, I'm a very blue collar creative, like roll up the sleeves, do whatever needs to be taken. I don't make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I try and, make a decent living for my family, and that getting to do that creatively from a small town feels like I'm winning.
Yeah.
So it's not always glamorous, but being able to continue to do it feels like, a gift I'm grateful for.
Oh, it's a privilege. It's awesome. Yeah.
And getting to hang out with guys like you and go do fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so I encourage anybody that's thinking about it, that you can survive being a remote creative. Sometimes you need to be creative about how you do that. But I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts, experiences that they might have, and tips. I'm always open to more tips. I can do it better. There's lots of stuff I fail at constantly, daily. So thanks for coming in. I definitely feel like, it'd be cool to do one of these yearly.
Yeah.
To get, what we learned this year.
Yeah. No, that'd be good.
Where we're at. And keep this series going.
Awesome. Thanks,
buddy.